One potential area where we can minimize costs in a large way is on large projects and large repairs. And that's where bidding comes in. And while we always say that the managing agent's controls on bidding exist and are probably reasonable to protect the building, we're trying to find the level of best practice guidelines, of finding specific controls that the board can put in place to make sure that we go above and beyond and get to best practices in the industry. These are usually established by one or several board members working together to personalize the situation and enhance the controls. But just remember, they can be lost if there's a change on the board or a change in the property manager. So it can be really important to memorialize them into a written format like policies and procedures. For the building staff, you want to have established schedules and maintenance logs to be sure that things are done when they're supposed to be done, and that's verified. Our whole premise here is to set up that we meet the building's objectives at the lowest possible cost and the highest possible standard of living and quality of life for the people. So when we go to bidding, it's generally required over an established amount, and that amount varies depending on the building. You have to personalize this your way. There can be either recurring or non-recurring. We're mostly going to be talking about non-recurring. We'll touch upon recurring a little bit at the end of the presentations. There's also a difference between supplies and services. Services can be one time, so they're pretty close, but a lot of times the services are recurring in nature, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. You always want to establish a minimum number of bidders, and that's not just that I got 3 proposals and I'm giving you the best one. It's important that you get all of the proposals and you get to look at them together, that you're not just looking at the one that somebody selected. That's been proven to be an issue in this industry. We always suggest as a strong internal control that at least one bid come from outside the usual avenues of the property manager, etc. So as a board, we suggest that you designate one bidder either from the internet. The cooperator has a guide of practitioners in their systems. You can call the Council for New York Cooperatives, use the yellow pages, contact your professionals, get a name that's outside the property manager. And if you ever see that there is a pattern to the fact that that one is the cheapest, you should have a concern that you're not paying the lowest possible rates. This is a great way to make sure we minimize the amount. They should always be request for proposal in written form. This way there's no question as to what should be done. This is the one we have a lot of trouble finding when we try to do our audit work. That way the scope of the work is set up, it assures the quality, and it also provides the opportunity for more bidders, because bidders are more likely to come to a written request than a oral request. You want to make sure that your bids are sealed and they're received in a secure location. That can be the managing agent, but it should not be your property manager. So you should designate somebody else at your managing agent to get them and hold them and have them brought to the board. You should make sure there are an established number of individuals present at the opening. We want to make sure that we standardize this process as much as possible. So let's say there's a minimum of 3 people who are on the board who are there for the bid opening. And we also have to set up a process to retain the bid packages. So many times I can get my hands as an auditor on the one that was chosen. I cannot find the ones that were not chosen. This is a really important area to make sure that you can verify that your bidding process works. When the bids are open, there should be a bid control sheet, including the reason that the decisions were made. You don't necessarily have to take the lowest price person or bid. You should document why, and those should be signed off by the person who attended. Now, there are some things that are not subject to bidding. There are some parts on some boilers and elevator where we are stuck using one vendor and there's nothing we can do. Also, emergency can be one, so there can be exceptions and we have to expect that. And then periodic review is important on things that are recurring. So you should, at least on an annual basis, take a look at the supplies contract you have, or contractors you're using, to make sure that you're getting the best possible price, that prices haven't changed. There are other kinds of contracts, such as elevator and maintenance contracts, should be evaluated. They may not be the cheapest. And also, an annual review of your professionals is a really important system to make sure that you can keep your costs down.